Hello, I'm Robbie with Brooks & Malone. I want to welcome everybody to our tutorial video. Today we'll be going over the pool that also has a spa in it. First thing we'll do, we'll go over the hydronics of the swimming pool. The pump will be second. Then we'll go over the iChlor and the filters. We'll also show how to vacuum and break the filters down and clean them. First thing we're going to do is go over the hydronics of the swimming pool. As you can tell, on all our pools, everything is separated on different ball valves, and every one of them are labeled, so you know what they are. This section here, the bottom drain, skimmer, and spa bottom drain, that's all water coming to the pump. And if you'll see on this side over here where you got your returns and your spa returns, that's water going back to the pool. So it's just making a big loop through this equipment. Now we're going to go over the variable speed pump. This is a Pentair variable speed pump. As you can tell, it's showing RPMs right now. We can change and see what, like the duration the pump's set up to run, which is all set up to run 24 hours. And the reason we're running this at 2,050 RPMs is she also has a heater which takes so much water volume to operate. On our variable speed pump, anytime we was going to make any adjustments to this pump, it would have to be shut off. Reason being, if I was to go ahead and make an adjustment with it running, it would remember that for 30 minutes and it would go back to its default setting. So what we're going to do right now, we're just going to set the clock on this. And I'm going to do that by holding in the display button. It shows me 12 hours. I press it again. Now I can adjust my time with the up arrow and the minus arrow. Press it again, twice, and you're set. Now, if we didn't turn the pump off, it wouldn't recognize that and it'd go back to flashing again. So we've just reset the clock on this pump. If you notice when I turn it back on, it's gonna go into a prime mode. And prime mode's gonna run for 5 minutes at 3450, which is as fast as this pump will run. We're gonna bypass that because we didn't get into any of the system. So all I'm gonna do is press 1. It's gonna go back to its normal speed. Two main buttons you're gonna use on this pump is the start stop button and the quick clean button. The quick clean button is going to be for vacuuming, or if you had to add chemicals to the water or salt to the water. If you're vacuuming this pool, which this is a 16 by 40 pool, it's probably going to take you 20-25 minutes to vacuum. Quick clean is designed to run for 2 hours. So when you get done vacuuming, you just shut it off, pull your hose out, start it back up, you're done. Now if you add chemicals or salt, I would recommend you to hit the quick clean button and just let it run its 2-hour cycle. That gets the water turned over, flipped, gets the chemical, salt, whatever you put in, mixed in faster. The next thing we will go over is the iChlor. This is going to be your best friend. This is what takes care of your swimming pool. As you can see, this number 44 output, that's parts per million. It's generating chlorine. Your lights will illustrate whether you're good on salt, low on salt, or out of salt. Don't always depend on this. You always have a strip that you will check this with also. Once you get this number set for the size of your pool, and that is based upon the chlorine level, you'll never have to adjust this number again. I'm going to show you how to adjust that. By pressing the more button and letting off, you'll notice the lights are flashing right here, the numbers. Now I can adjust that number. If I hold this button in, it will go up 5 at a time. Another thing I want to show you right now, this little wheel that's turning, it's generating chlorine right now. So I'm going to adjust it back to her settings. I'm going to hold the less button in, it's going to go down 5 at a time. And then I can press it 1 and get it back to where she had it. But as you see this little wheel, it means it's generating chlorine. You also have a diagnostic mode on this. By pressing the more button and holding it, you'll notice the lights change here on the left. Now we are in diagnostic mode. This first number pops up, tells you how many hours. 21 hours is how long this thing's been running. Press it again and it's going to give us our water temperature, which is 80 degrees. Press it again, that's going to be our salt level, 3669. You have a preferred salt range anywhere from 2800 to 4600. And I always tell a customer anywhere in the 3000s is perfect. So her salt level is really good. You can also shock this pool. You have a party, the germ load's high in the water. You can shock your pool by pressing both buttons and releasing them. It's going to generate 100% chlorine at 24 hours. Once that 24-hour period is up, it's going to go back to your settings at 44. This is safe to swim in. This is not like throwing a high dose of chlorine in your pool and having to wait for it to dilute itself and mix in. This is going through the system as it's running. To get out of it, I'm going to press the same two buttons. Go right back to her settings. Okay, the next thing we're going to go over is the cleaning of the filters. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to shut the pump off. After we shut our pump off, we can close our ball valves down. That's so we don't lose prime in our pipes. Okay, you notice I left one return open. And why I do that is to relieve pressure off this filter to let it drain down below this ring so we don't get drowned when we take it apart. This just lets the water flow back in the pool. You're going to hear a gurgling sound through the filter, and that's letting the water flow back to the swimming pool. To take your filter apart, you're going to need a 7/8 socket to take this ring off. And then underneath your plumbing, there is a 7/8 nut on this drain plug. What I like to do is lean my leg up against one side, and I'll take my hand and hold the other so I can take this apart. You're going to notice when I get this separated, there's 4 pieces to what we're tightening and untightening. You have the bolt itself. This washer goes on, spring goes on, and then this will fit on the bolt itself. I always set this where I can reach it when I go to put this back together. We'll take this ring completely off. Just set it aside. You want to be very careful when you raise your lid up. That valve is easy to break, so just take it off gently and set it to the side. This is your filter system. Most critical thing about this filter system is this gasket I'm taking off. When we get ready to put this back together, this needs to be cleaned, and this lip needs to be cleaned on the bottom of your filter. This black thing just lines your filters up. You got a little screen here that you'll see here just in a little while. There's air flows through this. It's kind of a little filter system in its own. We'll clean all this stuff up before we put it back together. These filters, they just slide right out. There's no right or wrong way about putting them in and taking them out. Once I have my filters out, I will take my drain plug out so I can clean my tank before I put my filters back in. When you take this plug out, it's going to look like you're draining your swimming pool, but it's just the water that's in the filter. This is what your plug looks like. It has an O-ring on it. When we go to put it back in, we'll put it in hand tight and then snug it, because it has an O-ring. There's no sense to over tighten it. So now we will take a water hose and just clean our tank out. So what we're going to do is just rinse this gasket off a little bit. Just get it good and wet. And then we'll take a rag. What I like to do is just take a rag and dry it off and just clean it real good. And after I've got that, make sure there's no debris on it. Come back to my tank and make sure this lip is good and clean. Because the last thing you want is to put this back together and then it's to have a leak, and that means you're draining it again just to clean the gasket. You wouldn't have to clean the filters, just clean the gasket. And I like doing this before I put my filters in because it's a little bit easier. It wants to roll up, and with the filters in there, it's hard to put in. So that's pretty much what you do, just bounce it till it lays down. So now we're ready to clean our filters. Okay, in washing our filters, we always use a water hose. We never use a pressure washer. Pressure washer will blow them apart. And if you was to take care of these filters, recommended cleaning is every 4 to 6 weeks, unless it's springtime when the pollen's bad. You may clean them today and have to clean them in probably 3 days. So basically, you're just going to use a water hose. Start at the top and just rinse all the way down. You see all the dirt just coming out of the filter. That means your filter's doing its job. All that dirt's not going back to your swimming pool. You take care of these filters, they'll last you 5 to 7 years. That's a regular cleaning on them. Now just make sure I rinse all my equipment off. So none of the debris that I've rinsed out of my filters is drying on it, so try to keep everything nice, neat, and clean. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do before we start putting our filters back together is make sure all the components we took out are very clean. So we'll just rinse them off really good. Because there's no sense in cleaning your filters and not cleaning the rest of this stuff and putting it back together and it all get dirty again. So just make sure everything's good and rinsed off. Now we're ready to go back to putting our filters in. And this usually takes you about 30 to 45 minutes to do. But this is a lot for your filters. So what I like to do is I'll put one in. And I kind of twist it to seat it. And then the next one I put in, I put a cross on it. That way it's kind of balanced out. Now we're ready to put our top back on, which lines the filters up, and then the little air vent that goes on top of the PVC. And it just presses on. Just make sure it's all the way down. Put your black thing on, lines the filters up, make sure it's packed down. Now we're ready to wipe our lid out and put our lid back on. I always like to take it and make sure this lip is good and clean. If there's any debris inside it, I'll wipe it out also. And what I like to do is this valve will release pressure on top. I check where it's at when it's closed so the customer can see the pressure on the tank. Just open it back up. That's relieving any pressure that's building up. So now we're ready to put our ring back on. Remember I said I use a leg and I use the hands. So once I got it together, I hold it with my hand, I'm holding it with my leg. Little washer goes on first. Then the spring, washer, and bolt goes on next. I always tighten this up hand tight so it holds the ring in place, and then I'll tighten it down with my impact. So it's snug right there, it's not going anywhere. Now I'll tighten this up till my coils almost touch, and that tells me I'm good. You can see right in here to this little gap in the coils, we're good. It's got about a 3/8 gap between the band. The last and most important thing is do not forget to put your drain plug back in the bottom of the filter. Okay, I just put it in hand tight. Now I'm just going to snug it. Not over tightening it. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do now that we got our filter system put back together, we're ready to go back to running. Make sure our plug is in the bottom. First thing I'm going to do is open my bottom drain, and I still have one return open where I bled the water back in the pool. So open my bottom drain. Now I'm going to turn my pump on start. So I've got water to come to the pool, or coming to the pump and going back to the pool once it starts up. Once I see water flowing in this, I'm going to open the lead-off valve to let the air come out of the tank as the water is coming up. Once it starts spewing water, I shut this air valve off. Okay, so now that we are going again, we're going to open up all the ball valves and you're ready to run. You're back to normal. What we did is just bleed all the air out. We're going to let it run through its full prime mode. which is 5 minutes, because we got into the filters and let more air into the tank. So we'll let that all bleed off. As you can tell with these ball valves, if that ball valve is running with the pipe, it's open. If it's running crossways with that pipe, it's closed. And a good illustration of that is going to be over here on your heater. This is what we call our H pattern, these 3 ball valves with the heater. And I'll explain a little bit about that right now. The water is running through the heater. You can tell this top ball valve and the bottom ball valve are running with the pipe. They're open, letting the water go through the heater and back to the pool. The center one is shut off because it is crossways with the pipe. It actually looks like they're all running the same, but they're not, because that pipe is actually vertical. Now in summertime or in wintertime, if you leave your pool circulating, those ball valves will be the opposite, because you wouldn't be using your heater in the summertime because the sun's going to heat your pool. Wintertime, your heater will be winterized, so you will be bypassing that heater, running the water through the system instead of the heater. If I wanted to switch those ball valves around while the pump is running, right now I would open the middle one. That lets water keep flowing when I shut these top and the bottom off. And going to the heater, running water through the heater, you would do it in reverse fashion. You would open the top and the bottom and then close the middle. That way you don't dead hit anything and water keeps flowing. Okay, I'm gonna go over the heater just a little bit. This is a gas heater, and you're gonna notice it's got spot on or pull on. And a lot of people get confused with this. The only difference in these two is your pool's gonna go up to 95 degrees, where spa can heat up to 104. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on pull. And you're gonna see it's telling me the water temperature is 81 degrees. This thermostat sets just like in the house. The heater is set on 81 degrees. Once it gets to its temperature you have it set, it's going to shut off. It drops 3 degrees below that. It'll kick back on until it gets heated back up. And just to turn this heater off, all I have to do is press heater off. And you'll hear the gas shut down. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to clean this skimmer basket out. And these skimmer baskets, they fit down in here, and you kind of twist them and they kind of lock tight a little bit. You don't want to get them over snug. So we're going to clean this out. It's got a few cicadas in it. So you can see these flat notches on this basket. There is a place down in the skimmer itself where this lines up, and you can feel it fall in when you're twisting it. And when you feel it get snug, just quit. You don't have to over tighten it. Okay, this is our vacuuming disc. It fits right down on top of that basket we just installed. And what this is going to allow us to do, anything big that's in the pool like rocks, leaves, it's going to vacuum through here and catch in this basket. So this also fits in a certain way. There's 2 little notches down in the bottom, you can see them, where the flat spots of that basket fit. And that just kind of sits down right on top of them. So the next thing we will do is we're going to prime our vacuum hose. We already have our pole, our vacuum head, and our hose hooked up to our vacuum head. So the next thing we're going to do is prime our vacuum hose. And what I do is I get everything in the water, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it on quick clean. And what that's going to do is ramp the motor up so I can fill this hose up faster. Okay, so what I do is I hold this hose over the return and get all the air out of the line, and that vacuum head floats up. And once it sinks back to the bottom of the pool, pretty much got your hose primed. So what I do is cap my hand over it. Just create a vacuum to hold the water. And then I'll come over here and I'll put this on that white disc we put on top of the basket. Just fits right down on top of it. It'll get the rest of the air out of the line through the pump. Last thing we need to do before we can vacuum is everything that's going to this pump needs to be coming through that skimmer. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut both bottom drains off. The spa bottom drain and the pool bottom drains. Now every bit of the water going to the pump is coming through that hose. This is why we label all of our ball valves. And what that does is creates a harder vacuum is what it does. Pool's really not that dirty. There's just a few spots in it's got some dirt, and we'll just try to get them out of there. Like I said, this pool has a spa. We can also vacuum at spa. And you're going to notice how I do this. While you're vacuuming, I don't recommend taking the hose out of the water. You're going to lose prime with your pump if you do. So I always keep it in the water. But we're going to get up here to this spa. And I'm going to show you how to vacuum it. If you can look over in his corner, you can see some dirt. I'm going to show you how this thing really works. So those filters we washed earlier, everything we're picking up now that's too small to stop in a basket is going to your filters, and it's not coming back to your pool. Okay, so we want to vacuum this spa. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get out here and I'm going to quickly just move this into the water. Got a little air in the line, but the pump will catch up real quick. Now, if let's say you just had a bunch of dust in the bottom of the pool, I wouldn't even tell you to get your vacuum system out. I would tell you to shut off your skimmer and leave your bottom drains open, and take your pool brush and brush everything to your bottom drains and let it filter out. The only thing our vacuum is really good for is getting big debris, mainly. So we're done vacuuming this. I'm going to just switch it back over to the pool really quick. A little dirt on these steps. And basically that is all there is to vacuuming your swimming pool. So we're done vacuuming right now. So what I'll do is I will lay the vacuum to the side. . 'Cause go over to my pump and cut my pump off. So what that does is relieve the pressure off my skimmer. I'm gonna open my bottom drains, pull my hose out of my skimmer basket, throw my hose back in. Take my basket back out to get all the debris out. You can see we vacuumed up a few leaves is about it. All the fine particles went to our filters. Then I just get my hose out and I'm done. Again, I'm Robbie with Brooks Malone. I want to thank you all for watching our video. I hope this was helpful for you and all the questions you have on your pool. If it didn't answer what you needed, feel free to give the office a call. And I want to thank you all for letting us be a part of your backyard dream.